Hello, everyone. My name is Jann Müller, and I'm the lead engineer for the Djed stablecoin project at IOG. And I'm here today to talk to you about the story of Djed, how we implemented it, and why it is really the safest stablecoin on Cardano. Before we start, I just wanted to clarify the setup of Djed. So IOG implemented Djed. We built that in our team, but it's operated by our partners at Coty. So they operate the servers, the backend. They're the issuers of the stablecoin, and they built the UI. And Djed is not available in the United States either. So it launched in February 2023, and it's been among the top 5 protocols, I would say, ever since in terms of the amount of ADA that has been locked in the contract. And you can see here on the chart, it's been between 30 and 40 million ADA locked in the contract at any time. It's an over-collateralized stablecoin, so it's always has about 4 to 8 times the amount of ADA in the reserves that you would need to reclaim all the Djed stablecoins that are in circulation. And since launch, there have been no safety issues, no downtime. It's always been possible to redeem Djed at the contract, so it's worked pretty well without any issues since then. And yeah, I'm here today to talk about how we built that, and especially how we made sure that it's a safe protocol, and what are the methods we used to make that happen. So, as we normally do at IOG, we started out with a formal specification. So we had this Djed white paper that was released maybe 4 years ago, which described the minimal version of Djed. So this is Djed v1 minimal Djed that we built on, but we had to put in some additional changes to make sure that it actually works on the Cardano blockchain. One of those changes was adding a batching mechanism for processing orders, so that we can have more than one order per transaction, which is really good for throughput. If you want any throughput, you need that. Because of this batching mechanism, we also added an incentive to keep the operator from cheating, like to keep the operator from leaving out certain orders, not processing some orders, selecting other orders. So there's a mechanism in there to punish the operator if they engage in that kind of behavior. So this is another thing we added. We also added an oracle. There's an oracle that collects price feeds from a number of providers. Then it calculates a mean, basically a mean value, and publishes this price feed on the blockchain in a UTXO that gets updated every 3 minutes or so. That was another building block. So we have this big formal specification, the design of the system. It also exists in a mechanized form. So there's an Isabelle version of it, of the core design of the system. And this mechanized version is what we use for proofs of certain properties of the stablecoin. So we have 2 really important properties that we prove. One is that it's not possible to drain the reserves. So you cannot engage in any kind of sequence of actions that will take out all of the ADA from the stablecoin illegally. The second property is you will always be able to get back your ADA for your Djed. So the Djed is always going to be exchangeable for ADA for the amount of $1 and 1 ADA. So we have this formal specification, we have our properties, and we implemented the system in Haskell. So at IOG, we built the back end of Djed, and all of it was implemented using Haskell. For the on-chain code, we have about 6 different scripts, 6 different Pluto scripts that work together to make the system happen. And those Pluto scripts are written in PlutusTX. And PlutusTX is a compiler plugin for GHC that generates Plutus code from Haskell. One issue that we found there is that if you really optimize the code that's generated by PlutusTX, it doesn't actually look like Haskell anymore in the end. It looks like very strange Haskell that you wouldn't normally write, but you optimize it for the compiler, and it ends up looking very different. But we use Plutus TX anyway. It's convenient to have it as part of the tool chain that compiles the normal Haskell. For the off-chain code, building the transactions, monitoring the chain for the state of the stablecoin, we used the Cardano API library, and we have a little set of our own libraries that's built on top of that, like a layer that makes it easier to write our off-chain code. And this layer is called SC Tools, and is actually available as an open source project on GitHub. And what SC Tools does is it lets you build transactions, balance them, do coin selection, submit them to the chain. It also helps you to write code that monitors the blockchain for any events that change the state, so any transactions, any orders, Oracle updates, and so on. You could get through that. So we have SC Tools, Plutus TX, and then on top of that, we wrote the off-chain code for Djed. And throughout the code base, we have placed a really strong emphasis on tests. That's really the heart, I would say, of the Djed implementation. Tests make up about maybe 80–90% of the code in terms of lines of code that we have, and it's really a really extensive test suite that actually takes maybe 2 or 3 hours to run all together when we run it. And the test suite has several different parts. So one is a number of unit tests where we just go through the normal scenarios, make sure everything works as is expected, that you can buy, sell, react to the exchange rate, and so on, just to go through the happy path, basically. We have a number of property tests, and property tests are randomly generated scenarios. So we generate the scenarios and then make sure that the expected outcomes are there after running the scenarios. We also have a number of integration tests where we spin up little private networks, deploy the stablecoin there, deploy the Oracle, set the exchange rates, and run through the same scenarios that we have in the unit test, basically. And the core of our test suite is something that we call test objectives, and that's something that's really new in Djed, something that we've come up with just to design and build this stablecoin on Cardano. And test objectives are statements about the system that are derived directly from the formal specification. So we have the specification, and it says, if I have an order for a stablecoin, for n stablecoins, and I execute it, and then afterwards the state should look like that. And a test objective can be like in the example I just gave, if and then, or it can be a global property that we have. And we take all of these test objectives. We have about 70, 80 test objectives. We take all of these test objectives and translate them into individual tests that run as part of a state machine test environment. And in the state machine test environment, we have a sequence of actions that change the state and really go through a large number of scenarios that we don't normally cover in our unit tests. And the nice thing about the test objectives is that we don't just test the positive cases. So we don't just look at, okay, if you buy n stablecoins, then the number in circulation should go up by n, and the reserves should also be increased by n. But we also look at negative cases that shouldn't happen. So we take the transactions that are generated as part of our test objectives, and we modify them. So we change maybe the parameters, we burn a token, we add a new token, we do some kind of change, and then that invalidates the transaction. And we test that our scripts actually reject this invalid transaction. And there are about maybe 40 different attacks or mutations that we do on our transactions. And these run as part of every single transaction that we have in our test suite. So that means that in the end, whenever we run our test suite, there are actually thousands and thousands of attacks that are being executed on the stablecoin to make sure that we didn't miss any edge cases, any attack vectors for people to steal money from the stablecoin. And that's really the new this new method that we've developed to make sure that the stablecoin is safe. And it's also worked quite well in practice. We found a number of bugs in our code just because of the test objectives. And in the 2 audits that Djed has had, there weren't any critical security issues revealed. There were a couple of minor issues, a lot of it related to documentation, to a bit of ambiguity in some places, but there were no security issues discovered in either of the 2 audits that we have. So this is all due to our way of starting with the formal specification and then deriving our test objectives and our attacks from this formal specification. So we go from start to finish just using this one formal design. In the 1.5 years that Djed has been operational, there have been some challenges as well. It wasn't just successes, but we've also noticed a couple of improvements that could be made to the protocol. And these break down into 2 classes, basically. One is to do with the algorithm of Djed itself, and this is what we call the protocol unlocking problem. And that problem is whenever the exchange, the reserve ratio goes below 400%, it's impossible to do certain actions. So for example, you cannot sell reserve coins anymore if the ratio is below 400%. You can always sell your Djed for ADA, so that always works. But if it's below 400, you cannot sell your Shen, your reserve coins. And this was actually the case for a large part of the year 2023. So throughout the summer 2023, the ratio was pretty low, and it was not possible to exchange your Shen tokens for ADA. And the problem with that is that it makes Shen less attractive than it could be, because you always have this risk of being locked with your Shen position, being unable to sell it back to the contract. And there's a similar issue, maybe it's less severe, but it also happens when the ratio goes above 800%, and then it becomes impossible to buy new Shen. But it's important to note that this is all by design. So this is all part of the white paper and part of the actual implementation. But it did turn out to be a problem for Shen holders in particular. The second issue that we've noticed has to do with capital efficiency. Because in the design of the stablecoin, we are very much over-collateralized. We have a lot of ADA in our reserves, 4 to 8 times the amount of ADA that we would need to cover the redemptions from Djed. And because of that, the ADA sits in the reserves. It is staked, so you get staking revenues from that, but it doesn't do anything else. It's not utilized. And so overall, the yields that you can get are not big enough, I would say, to incentivize liquidity providers to put ADA into the contract, so to buy Shen in a way. And the revenues that the contract generates are the staking revenues and then also some fees from operating the transactions. But overall, the capital efficiency of the reserves is not that great. But we did come up with a number of solutions to address both problems. That brings me to the set of new features. So there's been a major update recently that we've delivered to Koti. Koti is currently in the process of rolling out this update. One part of it had to do with the Conway hard fork, getting the code ready for the Conway hard fork, making sure that the transition is smooth. But it also included a lot of new features that we've added. First feature is something we call double burn, where it's now possible to sell Shen, to sell the reserve coins at any time, even if the ratio is below 400%. And the only condition for that is that you also have to sell some ADA. some Djed at the same time to make sure that the ratio improves through your transaction. So you sell some Shen and some Djed, and then as a result of your action, the ratio actually goes up. And as long as that is the case, you can always sell your Shen. So that addresses the first issue that we've identified, the protocol unlocking problem. Another improvement that was asked for by a lot of users is multi-address wallets. So previously, until now, we've only been able to use a single address for balancing the transactions that we build with Djed.
Enjoying the event? Fire up that wallet and delegate your ADA to Rare Stake Pool. For over 3 years, Rare has been committed to providing high-quality staking services. And we're now Chang Hard Fork ready. Thank you for your support.
Now this has been changed. You can put in any number of addresses. Your coins can be at any number of UTXOs. They will all be considered for selecting, for coin selection and for building the transactions. And this is, in terms of functionality, it's only a minor upgrade, but it's a really big improvement for a lot of users who previously had to put in, had to make an extra transaction to collect all of their coins and then do the Djed transaction as a result. Another really big feature that I'm excited about is multi-pool delegation. At the moment, all of the ADA that is locked in the contract is only staked to a single stake pool. And we're currently working on extending that to multiple stake pools. And this is a feature that we're developing together with MLabs. And the idea is that before the epoch boundary, the UTXO gets split up into a number of other UTXOs that are counted for the staking rewards. And then after the boundary, we just put them back together. And that way we can achieve, we're not bounded by the 65 million ADA limit anymore. And we can also distribute the stake to multiple stake pools. If we want to support community-run stake pools, that is a way to share the rewards a bit more evenly. And that's also coming pretty soon. And then finally, we have a more variable fee structure where we can now set the fees for each type of action individually. So you could say, now you can set the fee for selling Shen, for example, to 0 to encourage selling reserve coins if there's too much in the reserve, or if you want to encourage buying, you can set the fee for buying reserves to 0. But this is going to be up to the operator to decide what the fees are going to be. With these features on the way, we also have a number of future items on our roadmap, some topics that we're excited about that we want to build on. And this is roughly split into 3 themes that we're working on. The first big important theme is decentralization. Having multiple operators would make Djed more resilient and increase its decentralization. And we want to work towards a fully decentralized Djed stablecoin. And the first step towards that is going to be decentralizing the oracle. There's currently no suitable decentralized oracle that we can use, and we're hoping to work on that together with other protocols that are interested in using an oracle like that. So if that's something that you're excited about, get in touch with me. I'm happy to talk about this after the session. And then once we're done with the oracle, we're wanting to decentralize the rest of the stablecoin as well, to support multiple operators in the end. Another big theme is flexible reserves. And this addresses the capital inefficiency challenge that I mentioned earlier. And our idea to address this is to build a type of lending borrowing app where we would put some of the liquidity in our reserves into this lending borrowing pool, but it has a unique provision for protocols that allows us at Djed to get back the reserves in case that we need them. So if there's a crash in the ADA price, for example, we really need the reserves to redeem all of the Djed, there would be a special provision in the lending borrowing protocol that allows us to get back the liquidity and use it for our own purposes. And this is what we call protocol lending. That's a separate app or feature that would sit next to Djed, and that's what we want to work on next in terms of features. And then finally, big theme or big goal that we want to achieve is to open source the contract. There isn't really a lot of extra work that needs to be done, just polishing the code, finishing the documentation, and so on. But it's more of a question of when's the right time. We need the right approvals and so on. So we would really like to open source the contract. We might do that in parts as well. So we might start with the Oracle here and then open source the rest of the code base. And as I mentioned earlier, the transaction building code that we use and the off-chain code library that we have, that is already open source. So you can check out SC tools and look at, there are some examples in there, and you can already build your own Cardano apps that use the same off-chain code and the same testing facilities as well as Djed. So we've come to a point now where we've implemented the features that we wanted to do originally, and now we're at this stage where we can think about the future, where we work towards decentralization, flexible reserves, and open sourcing the protocol. And that's what I'm really excited about the next couple of months. It's a new chapter in our journey. We still have a couple of minutes. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take one or two. And that's a really good question. Thank you. The question is, which are we going to delegate the ADA to community pools, and have we figured out which pools they are yet? So our plan is to add a governance mechanism in the end for shareholders to decide what pools should be used. In the beginning, we plan to look at community pools, at small pools, to come up just with an initial list of pools that we delegate the ADA to. And we want to use a decentralization index to see how can we support the decentralization of the network. So we don't want to allocate it in a way that makes it more centralized, but we want to support the smaller pools, to support single pool operators. So we're thinking about that, and there's some governance coming as well to do that. Okay, thanks for that question. The question is, how do you submit to be a single pool operator? That's not decided yet. So we haven't settled on a process. I think that'll get clearer when we add the governance mechanisms that are coming. Yeah, but it should be happening in the next few months, I would say. Thank you. Are we considering another foundation for the stablecoin besides it being over-collateralized? So currently, we're not looking at changing that. We're going to stick with the core idea of the Djed paper, that it's an over-collateralized stablecoin. The bigger, I think one change that goes in that direction would be the flexible reserves bit that I mentioned, where we try to use the ADA a bit more efficiently. But it's still going to be an over-collateralized stablecoin.
Rare Evo 2025 tickets are on sale now. Save big. General admission passes are discounted to $250, and VIP passes are only $800. Join us August 7th through 9th, 2025 at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Hurry, only 30 days left to save. Visit rareevo.io and buy your tickets now.